holds the police accountable. The man in charge of policing the Boulder Police Department says he feels a duty to actually be on the streets, watching how officers respond to protests. Minneapolis police didn't tell the whole story of what happened to George Floyd in the hours after his death. It made us wonder what Aurora police told us in the hours after they encountered Elijah McClain. A school, businesses, even an entire neighborhood changed a controversial name. So why is it so hard to change a street sign? And Kyle takes a break from vacation to offer another word of thanks. How your micro-giving campaign can help the people who so often rescue us. I'm Steve Stager in for Kyle. This is next. Policing the police. It's something we're talking about a whole lot more lately. And you probably don't know much about what an independent police monitor does, or even if you have one in your city. Mark Salinger takes us to Boulder, where an impartial set of eyes is watching over any complaint filed against its police department.
Couldn't help but notice you're sitting on the patio behind this building.
In March of 2019, Boulder Police approached a college student picking up trash outside his apartment. Officers told Zaid Atkinson he was being detained, even though he had done nothing wrong and showed his student ID when asked.
Would you think that you could tase me? I'm freaking picking up trash on my property.
The officer involved eventually resigned. The case would change the way Boulder handles allegations of police misconduct.
The independent police monitor position in Boulder was created after the Zaid, or in direct response to the Zaid Atkinson incident.
Joey Lapari is Boulder's first independent police monitor, on the job since last July. He works for the city, not the police department.
I think the role of monitors and oversight practitioners are absolutely critical to our democracy and to the public's confidence in our democracy. Things go wrong in policing, and we need individuals who are not part of police institutions to be able to identify that and identify the solutions.
Lipari says he usually receives around 5 complaints a month, ranging from people who say they were mistreated by officers to allegations of excessive force. He investigates all of them as an impartial observer. He was ready yesterday if protests began after the Derek Chauvin trial. It's his job to be out on the street watching.
We can't sort of paper over the problems and ignore the reasons why communities don't trust the police.
Denver also has an independent police monitor, which released a report last year slamming Denver police for its response to George Floyd protests. In Aurora, the city manager has called for an independent police monitor position to be created after the death of Elijah McClain. The city already has an independent review board. And the independent monitor position in Boulder doesn't have any disciplinary action, but he can make suggestions. Civilian Oversight Board was also established to deal with any complaints against officers. Steve, at this point, they haven't had to go out and physically monitor any demonstrations yet.
Mark, that sounds so unique because not all of these independent monitors go out to the protests and actually watch what goes on there. So why does he want to do that specifically in Boulder?
Yeah, it can be hard to see everything that's happening at some of these bigger demonstrations. So he wants to go out, see what's going on, and then after the fact, come back, watch all the body camera video, any other video that's going on to make sure that you get a full picture of what was going on.
Mark Salinger reporting in front of a great view of a snowy day in Denver. Mark, thank you. Opposition to a bill addressing police accountability seems to be more focused on specific wording rather than the bill as a whole. House Bill 1250 aims to help clear up some issues found in the original police accountability bill passed last year. Opposition to this new bill seems to be about the language. Current and former members of law enforcement testified today that they have a problem with wording like exhausted all when you're talking about de-escalation techniques. They say that can cause hesitation in the moment for officers when trying to decide whether force is necessary. So we ran through the checklist for you yesterday. It includes verbal persuasion, warnings, slowing down the pace of an incident, waiting the person out, creating distance between an officer and a threat, and calling for additional resources to help resolve the incident. Law enforcement officials today said that there's still not enough time to run through all of that in their head when a situation escalates. The bill just passed through the House Judiciary Committee about 5 minutes ago. If you have been on social media since the verdict yesterday, you've probably seen people sharing the police press release from Minneapolis the night of George Floyd's death. It claimed that Floyd died following a medical incident. Makes no mention of what the world would soon find out, that Derek Chauvin kneeled on his neck for more than 9 minutes. It's a great reminder to journalists and the general public to always be skeptical. So with that in mind, we look back in our archive to see what Aurora Police said in the hours after the incident that would end in Elijah McClain's death. What we found was far more factual, though it certainly needed some more context. It took nearly 48 hours for Aurora Police to issue this release about what happened to Elijah McClain on the night of August 24th, 2019. The news release describes the suspicious person call that led 3 Aurora police officers to Billings Street that night. Quote, officers arrived in the area and contacted a male wearing a ski mask. The male would not stop walking down the street from the officer. The male resisted contact, a struggle ensued, and he was taken into custody. What the release didn't say is that officers had their hands on Elijah McClain within 10 seconds with no evidence that he had broken the law. The release talked about McClain's agitated mental state, leading officers to request a medic for professional medical attention. It never named the drug they used, only called it a standard medication routinely utilized to reduce agitation. We now know that paramedics injected McClain with ketamine, more than was recommended for his size, after he was on the ground, handcuffed, and not moving very much. McClain would be declared brain dead a day after this release came out. Another day, another rise in patient counts in Colorado. The increase in COVID-19 hospitalizations in Colorado since the beginning of April has been pretty steady. It's now very noticeable when you look at that chart. We now have 561 patients hospitalized in our state. That's up 8 from the day before. It's our highest single-day total since around the end of January. This time last week, we had 469 patients being treated at hospitals in this state. Our positivity is holding steady on the high plateau we've talked about before, 5.9%. Yesterday, which is where our 7-day average is. Over 26% of Colorado's population has completed the vaccine process, more than 1.5 million people. 875,000 people are waiting on their second dose of Pfizer or Moderna.
We are coming to the end of a sadly historic season for avalanche deaths in Colorado and across the country. And now our state search and rescue teams in each county are shifting into a new season of operations. Each county has their own team, typically volunteers, who along with giving their time tend to spend $4,000 to $10,000 per person of their own money on training and equipment just to keep all the rest of us safe in Colorado's wild and beautiful places. I asked Colorado search and rescue teams to make a list of some of the things they need for their mission, because I think that we together might be able to help. Our Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week will help search and rescue teams across the state pay for the equipment they need to save lives. Here's what we're talking about. Park County Search and Rescue could use heavy-duty winter coats for its team and updated radios. Ouray County has a 27-year-old truck that they don't want to replace, they just want to repair it. Front Range Search Dogs hopes to buy satellite trackers for its volunteer teams that go out with the dogs to search for missing people. Mesa County's team needs help with river rescue equipment. Douglas County's main rescue truck has literal holes in the floorboards. So that's what we're talking about, some very specific and practical needs for the volunteer groups that do search and rescue in each of Colorado's counties. The statewide nonprofit that advocates for these groups is going to collect our donations and then run a grant process to award money to high priority needs, and they're not going to take any money for doing this. It's really cool what they're doing so that we can help out small nonprofit teams in every corner of our state at once. Text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 and I'll send you that link. As always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5. If somebody volunteering their time to save lives is donating thousands of dollars out of their own pocket, I'm hoping that we too can pool some of our dollars to help them buy and repair life-saving equipment that is ready to be deployed for search and rescue in every corner of our state.
The neighborhood formerly known as Stapleton got a new name last year. As the name is removed from areas in Denver, why are there still new Stapleton signs going up? And a morning walk in the snow by any means necessary. A whole outfit to go with the doggles is the most Colorado thing we saw today. Next. A Denver neighborhood decided it wanted a new name. Students campaigned to have their school called something different. The Central Park neighborhood name exists because of its residents. DSST Montview is the name of the school in Central Park because the students pushed for it. Yet there are brand new Stapleton signs going up in Denver. Our Marshall Zellinger looks at the latest effort to get the name changed.
This is Central 70 local street name change.
The Colorado Department of Transportation Commission recently took up an issue it normally does not handle.
We received a letter from the city and county of Denver on April 12th, I believe, requesting a name change.
You see, CDOT does not normally name roads, so it doesn't have a process for naming or renaming them. Yet the CDOT Commission approved renaming 2 roads within the Central 70 construction zone.
The name of the street right now is called Stapleton Drive. It's both on the north and south side of I-70.
At a time when the name was being removed from a neighborhood, a school, a rec center, a neighborhood organization, it was being added to these new signs. Here's why. CDOT does not name roads, but Denver, where the road exists, can't rename a street the city doesn't own. In a letter from the mayor's chief of staff requesting a name change, Alan Salazar wrote, as the access roads were transferred to CDOT in connection with the Central 70 project in 2015, they are currently owned by the state. According to CDOT's research, the streets have never officially been named. An internal memo from August 1965 from Denver's city engineer read, considerable effort is required to formally dedicate these frontage roads as city streets, but because of the current need for street names in that area, we've been informally permitting the residents to use the names Stapleton North Drive and Stapleton South Drive. But remember, CDOT does not name roads.
The chair calls it as unanimous approval.
With no objection, CDOT renamed 2 roads. Eastbound will now be East 44th Avenue, westbound East 45th Avenue. And my favorite question in stories like these, who pays to replace signs that look pretty brand new as they are? And the answer is CDOT. How much will it cost to reprint or cover up or whatever it takes? Steve, I'm still waiting to hear back on that answer.
It usually costs a lot more than what you would think.
Signs like that, I know, but you know, we've done the speed limit signs where maybe they can just cover it, and I don't know if it scrapes off, or you have to put up, like that big one has me concerned. Like you have to put up the brand new one that says, you know, East 45th and Dahlia, and if you were going to do that, why didn't you wait to make the sign in the first? Anyways, forget that.
Every time I see those speed limit signs, though, I think, can people just run over there and peel off the label or put their own number up on top of it?
The one on I-25 that says 60 throughout the city, I think if you took it down, it says 55 underneath it.
Oh, all right. Well, that's good to know. So they bumped it up a little bit. All right, Marshall. Thank you. No 420 rally yesterday, so no 420 rally cleanup today. We look back at the trashy way Colorado's biggest weed celebration wound up with a new organizer. From trashy to flashy, Luna's chic winter weather outfit is the most Colorado thing we saw today. And it's next. COVID-19 has been dominating our lives and the national conversation for more than a year. So sometimes it's a good idea to take a step back and ask ourselves, what do we used to talk about? 4 years ago today, we saw a prime example of how not to Colorado after a very Colorado event. On April 20th of 2017, Colorado's biggest celebration of marijuana happened. Then the next day, on April 21st of 2017, Civic Center Park looked like it had been hit by a trash tornado. Here's what a young ace reporter named Steve Steger said about it that day. Civic Center Park was filled with hundreds of people smoking pot yesterday and piles of trash this morning. A lot of you weren't too happy about the mess left after the 420 rally. We got a lot of emails about it. Next, called the city. We learned the organizers have until midnight tonight to clean up. City officials will do a walkthrough tomorrow morning. If it's still a mess, the city will keep the organizers' $2,800 deposit to clean up the trash or repair any damage. Looked like all the hair from my face went to my actual hair there. That would be the last time that Miguel Lopez would be in charge of the 420 rally. At the time, he told us that cleanup crews were doing a good job until a man with a knife started slicing open trash bags and threatening workers. Denver Parks and Rec banned him from being able to get a permit for the event for the next 3 years. If you remember, there was controversy over the process of selecting who would get the permit to host the 2018 rally. Allegations of cheating during a foot race, as well as the winner being in cahoots with the former organizer. In the end, a company named Euflora took over the event in 2018 and 2019, renaming it the Fly High 420 Festival. The event has been canceled the last 2 years because of COVID.
What season is it anyway? Feels more like winter and certainly looks like it across downtown Denver as the storm system is bearing in across the metro area. We have this system that is crossing the I-25 corridor, pushing across the eastern plains, delivering some nice snowfall this evening. Here in the metro area, we'll count on a couple of inches. Unfortunately, the timing not great as a lot of folks are hitting the road and trying to get home. Again, an inch or two tops, perhaps an inch or two further to the west, and then up in the mountains and foothills, about 2 to 5 inches coming your way by early tomorrow morning. Looks like about midnight, the snowfall ends here in the metro area as temperatures fall into the mid-20s. Again, tomorrow morning, you kick off the day with some sunshine. Should be beautiful. By the afternoon, though, another system crosses our state, bringing us some scattered rain showers about 2, 3 o'clock, and possibly even a rumble of thunder. As these clear out, we will once again be getting ready for another round on Friday. Temperatures tomorrow a bit warmer in the lower 50s, but hey, look ahead to the weekend. The 70s return on Sunday.
The most Colorado thing we saw today, Coloradans of all types practicing safe snow. Luna was not about to miss her morning walk, but human Michelle realized that it was 16 degrees in Aurora, so on went the booties, the jacket, and the goggles to prevent snow blindness. Also, can't forget to keep those ears warm, so Luna is ready for anything and ready for it in style. When you love playing in the outdoors as much as Coloradans do, you're going to run into instances when those Coloradans need help getting home. That's where our state's search and rescue teams come in. But the vital equipment they use to help people, it's not free. We can help them prepare for whatever is coming next.
Your Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign this week is a chance to help search and rescue teams across Colorado. Their statewide nonprofit will pool our donations and then grant them out to the smaller groups. You got Front Range Search Dogs, which hopes to buy satellite beacons so that they don't lose a volunteer and a dog while they're out searching for somebody who's lost. Conejos County Search and Rescue hopes to buy a snowcat so they don't always have to rely on the few volunteers with personal machines to get to people in danger during the winter. Routt County Search and Rescue is hoping to replace an old truck. They are halfway to their goal, but could use our help to get the rest of the way. Text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 and I'll send you that link to join me in donating. These are the volunteers who stand by 365 days a year to rescue Coloradans out of dangerous situations. Now here's our chance to combine forces to help them do it.
Finish with your feedback now. Lisa writes in, I went to Ball Arena this morning for the heck of it, and there was no line to get a vaccine. No one in line in front of me, still reeling from the shock. Thanks for letting us know about it yesterday. If you need a vaccine, go to one of those walk-in sites. They have, or those larger sites, they have the ability to get you in line pretty quickly. Mom tweets, writes, just wondering why you keep crossing off Kyle's name in the opening graphics with Kyle Clark. Even a substitute teacher gives the class professor some credit. I'm like the great value Kyle Clark, so we should just leave it the way it is. See you next time.